Hello and welcome. In today's session, we are going to see the processes which are involved in the checkout activity. So, if I can show you what we have developed till now, this is the application that we have. There are three tabs here. One is a search tab where you can search for items. The second is the cart where the items whichever you want to shop for gets added. And the third tab, which we have not yet developed, is a quick order tab, which will basically have a list of all the items which you have shopped earlier, and which will make it a easier or a quicker way of doing shopping, because the list of items will be a much smaller list. Okay, now what we have done till now is that we have done some search for the items, and we have added one item called kel into the cart. Now here in this particular session, what we are going to see is this checkout button here. So if you press the checkout button, what exactly happens, and how this information, which is the cart data or the items which are there in the cart, and the rest of the checkout information is sent back to the server. Now if you want to see the implementation of the search or the cart, there are other videos available in the same playlist. Please go ahead and have a look. Now to start off, let's have a look at the XML layout of the checkout screen. Now I've created a new file called activity underscore checkout, and this is how the screen looks like, or the layout looks like. So what we have done is that we have put the different fields which are there for address, and then following that there are a lot of other information which you might want to capture, like the preferred slot of delivery timings, which day and which time slot that the customer might want the delivery. Then there is obviously the payment information which you might want to incorporate, and then there might be other incorporations like entering the promo code or entering some kind of discount coupon which might be there. There are a lot of things which you can add, but in this particular session we have just kept it simple. What I've done is that we have put the address parameters here, and I have just put a header for the payment information here. But obviously payment information would mean that you have to do an integration with the payment gateway, and that I would be covering in a separate session in itself. Now once you press the submit, what happens is that all the information with respect to the address, with respect to the user identification information, which is the user ID or some other identifier that you want to have, and the entire card data is sent back to the server, and the server sends back an acknowledgement with an order number, and that has to be displayed here for the user. Now coming back to the code, this is the code for the checkout activity. Now after the basic initializations which I've done in the on create, what I'm doing is I'm just um, setting the content of this activity checkout to this particular activity, and then I'm going to map all the different variables, the text views which are there on the screen, and obviously I'm going to set up a on click listener for the submit button, because this is what is going to trigger the different actions with respect to communication with the server. So if you can have a look at the submit on click listener, what I've done is that first of all I am capturing the address which has been entered by the user with respect to the name, the address one, address two, city, state, pin code, phone number, and all the details. And then I have merged all of them into one consolidated address field. So as you can see that I'm just concatenating each of these into one address, and this is the final address which I'm going to have. Now notice that here I have not put any validations. Say for example, if the name is empty or the address line 1 is empty, or the pin code is not valid or invalid, or the phone number is not valid. So whatever validations that you want to put, you have to put it here. Okay, and you can do those checks, and then you can publish toast messages corresponding to each of these validations. And if any of the validations fail, you can just skip this part of the code and exit, so that what the user gets is that toast message. Until the time all the validations are successful, nothing happens. They are not able to submit. Now this is the part of the code which you need to execute once all the validations are successful. So it can be used with a if else kind of a loop, where this is the last piece of code which should be there in the last else. Now the assumption here is that all the validations are successful, and if that be the case, then I'm going to capture the address, and I'm also going to create certain values like the number of items which are there in the cart. This I am getting it from the cart list dot size. Now cart list is an array list which I have populated here. As you can see, it has been defined here. Okay. And this get cart data which is there in on create is what is reading the cart table and populating all the items in the cart table in the database to this cart list array list. Coming back to this part of the code, what I have done here is that I have just taken a count of the number of items which are there in the cart list, and after that what I'm doing is that I am just creating a product list which is nothing but a concatenated list of all the products which are there in the cart. So as you can see that I am just running a loop for the number of items which are there in the cart, and I'm going to create a consolidated list where I'm prefixing the different products. Say for example, you're prefixing the code with a parameter of code, and then quantity, and then value, and like this I'm just running a loop so that all the items are consolidated into one particular string called product list. Now this I'm doing because I'm going to call a RESTful API to send the information. So I need to be able to consolidate all the results into one and then send it across to the server for it to interpret. Now after I've done all these things, I'm going to call the asynchronous task, which is going to communicate with the server and update the database in the server. And also once the response has been received from the server, it is going to display the relevant messages or do certain activities. Now there are two ways to communicate with the server. One is through the HTTP post method, which is where we can use the post method of the HTTP to submit some information. So we can use that to submit the product list and the address and all of the information. It is one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is to call a RESTful API, where all the different parameters or whatever we want to send to the server is sent through in the call itself. I'm going to send all the information. So I've used the RESTful API method, but there are other examples where you can very well use the HTTPS post method as well. Now moving on, this is the get cart data method. Now this method reads all the items from the cart. As you can see here, select start from cart, and then one at a time it is moving the information in the cart to the cart list array list, which I've already explained earlier. I'm going to move on quickly. Now there are two other methods called delete cart data and add order data. Now we will understand what is the relevance of these, but let me explain this to you as well. So once the data has been successfully synchronized with the server, the cart in your local application database should become zero, because now the order has been placed, so your cart should become empty. So this is the method which is going to empty the cart. As you can see, it just deletes from cart, means is going to empty the cart. The next thing is add order data. Now what we are also doing is that we are creating an order history table, as you can see here, and because the order has been placed, we are going to move all the information of all the items which have been placed with the order number into the order history table, so that the user can have a look at the order history later on if he requires. So this particular method basically copies all the items which are there in the cart list, and it pushes it into the order history table. The only addition is that it also adds the order number into the order history table. Now I have done all the database operations in the same file, but this is not a good way of doing it. I have mentioned this in earlier videos as well. We should use database helpers to achieve this, But for the sake of simplicity of learning at this point of time, I've kept all the code in one place so that it is easier for you to understand. Moving on, this is a piece of the code for the async task. Now, what I've done is that I have just defined a progress dialog because I don't want the user to do anything till the submit has been successful with the server. Now, on the pre-execute, I am just creating the URL which needs to be called. Now, as you can see that I am passing all the information in the URL itself. So this is the link to place the order. Here we have the user ID, and I have predefined the user ID here. You can define it as you wish. Now, the next thing that I'm going to pass is the address, where the address is the same value that I have created by concatenating all the fields which were there on the screen. And then the next thing is the item count, which is another variable called count of or the number of items. And then the order list, which is nothing but the product list which I've concatenated earlier. Now, if I can just take you back, this is on the on click listener method of submit button. As you can see here, I have concatenated all the fields of the address into one string, and this is the number of items variable, and this is the variable which is the product list, which is a concatenation of all the products which are there in the cart. Now coming down to async task, once I have constituted the URL, I am just starting off the progress dialog so that the user interactions stop. And then in the do in background, what I'm doing is I'm calling this particular URL, and I'm waiting for a response from the server. So once I get a response from the server, I'm checking the status tag of the JSON which has come back from the server, and that is basically the response. Now, if the response happens to equal success, which means that the data has been successfully saved in the server, then what I'm doing is I'm also capturing the order number with respect to the order number tag in the XML. And then what I'm doing is that I am just setting the flag called result into success, which means that the operation was successful. And obviously the next activities which I'm doing is I'm deleting the card data and adding the order data. Now deleting the card data, as I had mentioned earlier, is that I am making the cart empty, and I'm moving all the data of the order with the order number which has come here into another table called order history. Now, if the JSON call is not successful, what we have done is we have set the result to connection error. Now, the importance of this result we will see in the on post execute method of the async task. Now, in the on post execute, I am checking if the result is success, which we have set here. If the result is success, then I'm going to do certain activities. Otherwise, I'm going to display a toast message to the user saying that the network is not available. Please try later. Okay. I'm assuming that the synchronization with the server was successful. What I'm doing is I am showing a toast message with the order number which has come back from the server, and we are saying that order number this has been successfully created. And then I'm doing a dismiss of the progress dialog, and I'm calling the intent to display the home screen again. Now the home screen is nothing but the screen or the activity which houses all the three tabs: the search, the cart, and the quick order. And it is going to go back to that home screen activity, and I'm calling the finish because this is the end of this particular activity. So now let's have a look at the application. I'll open the emulator. So this is the cart. Now, if I press the checkout button here, so we have been taken to the checkout screen. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter some values here. It doesn't really matter because we have not put much validation. Yeah, so we are done. Okay, so now once I press the submit button, we will see that it has synchronized the data with the server, and there is a toast message with the order number which has been displayed, and we have been taken back to the cart, and as you can see that the cart is now empty because we have removed all the items from the cart. Now you can again go back to search, and you can search for some other product. Let's say now we want to search for Kisan, and this is the item which is displayed, so I am adding this item to the cart. And now if I go back to cart, I will see that there is one item in the cart. Thank you for watching this session. If you want to have a look at the code, it is available in my blog semicolon.blogspot.in, that is semycolon.blogspot.in. The link is mentioned in the description of this video as well. Go ahead and have a look at the code and you can use it for your own reference. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, please do not forget to press the like button and also to subscribe to this channel for more such sessions. Thank you.